Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our Installation Intel webinar, Johns Manville's Mechanical Insulation Products. My name is Kim Melton, and I will be your moderator for today's presentation. Before we dive into introductions, I do want to go over a few logistics. Like many of you, we are all working from home, so if we run into any technical difficulties today or have anything that happen that's disruptive to today's presentation, we will pause the webinar for 5 minutes to see if we can correct the technical difficulties that we're having. If we are not able to address those in that 5-minute time frame, we'll cancel the webinar for today and we will reschedule it for a future date, or we will record it and send you a recording that you can watch at your leisure. So if you have any questions or concerns about this or throughout the webinar, we will actually be addressing those at the end, and you can submit questions to us via the Q&A feature on the right side of your screen. So you should see a Q&A dialog box. If you don't see that, you can actually click on those that small ellipsis in the bottom right-hand corner, and that will open up the Q&A dialog box. Please make sure that it is asking all panelists, so those panelists come through to everybody so that we can see them, and we'll get to your questions at the end of today's presentation. Also, a quick note before we get started, this webinar is for educational purposes only and should not be used as a substitute for professional engineering design, consultation, or documentation that's required by building codes, contracts, or applicable laws. If you have any questions about this or anything we talk about today after the webinar, you can refer to our specific application guidelines and instructions, and those are located in the product sections of our website. Finally, we'll be following today's webinar with a survey, and this is your opportunity to provide us with feedback on how we've done. You can use it to ask any additional questions or even use it to request somebody follow up with you to make sure that you get your questions answered one-on-one. But this survey is also part of how we deliver the JM experience to you, and the JM experience is based on 4 pillars of the JM culture, and those are listed in the bottom left corner of the slide. Now, we believe it's critical to make sure that we hear, understand, and respond to your needs in order to deliver the best interaction to you. And we offer webinars like this one to help educate the market and offer a tool and a resource for you and your business. But we understand that this isn't just a one-way street. Your feedback is actually a key component to helping us better evolve to meet those needs. So if you have any comments or suggestions as to how we can better accomplish this, or even if you feel like we've missed the mark today, we'd encourage you to fill out the survey. On that note, I'm going to hand it over for introductions. Joining me today are Meredith Westerdale and Natalia Maximova, and they are going to be your hosts. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Meredith to kick us off.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Meredith Westerdale. I am the product manager for mechanical insulation here at Johns Manville. The products that I cover are fiberglass pipe insulation, fiberglass boards, and PVC jacketing. I've been at JM for 8 years and focused on mechanical insulation for the past 2 years.
Excellent. Hello, my name is Natalia Maximova. I am a senior product engineer for mechanical insulation. I support Meredith on the technical side. I have been with JM for 2 years working on the industrial and mechanical insulation products. And now let's dive into our presentation summary. So we have a busy agenda today, and we will start by covering general considerations. Then we'll discuss the new products. Meredith and I will cover the mechanical product portfolio, and we'll follow with additional resources and Q&A. So what should be considered when selecting insulation type, and why do we insulate? So we're talking about thermal insulation, and it has multiple benefits. Many are related to thermal performance. By reducing heat flow, which will be loss or gain of heat, the insulation can help us achieve energy conservation, process control, condensation control, reduction of environmental pollution, freeze protection, also personnel protection. By having sufficient amount of insulation, we can achieve safe-to-touch conditions. Let's not forget about other benefits. Fire protection is achieved by using non-combustible insulation to prevent combustibles from reaching the ignition point. And also, many types of the insulation can provide you with acoustical benefits. And with these benefits, you can reduce the unwanted noise in a situation such as in an environment where you have pumps or compressors. When designing the mechanical insulation systems, There are a few things that need to be considered. First, we should look at the ambient temperature and humidity, and they may be critical if you're dealing with, let's say, chilled water system, but not so much if it's a steam line that you're insulating. Next, surface temperature. It should be less than 140 degrees Fahrenheit for the hot system, and that's per OSHA. Sufficient amount of insulation is required in order to achieve this condition, so the correct amount should be specified. We should consider the pipe runs when looking at the system. If you're transferring fluids, whether they're cold or hot, across a big campus, looking for the heat loss or gain and properly accounting for it is critical. And finally, spacing should be evaluated. When designing a system, allow for sufficient insulation thickness, and also let's account for the work that needs to be done by the contractors when working and installing insulation. And that will be insulation as well as jacketing. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Meredith to catch us up on what's new at JM.
Thanks, Natalia. So before we dive into our standard portfolio of mechanical insulation product offerings, I want to highlight some of the few things that are new here at JM. And we're very excited to have recently announced the expansion of our fiberglass pipe manufacturing facility in Defiance, Ohio. We've added a new production line in order to improve our ability to meet the market demand for JM's fiberglass pipe insulation. We also recently acquired ITW Insulation Systems, and this has brought several new products into the JM family, including Trymer PIR insulation and metal jacketing. And Natalia will review those products in more detail later on in the presentation. Another newer product at JM is 800 Series Spinglass Ultra. This is our standard 800 Series Spinglass product, but it's faced with a poly-top paper-free jacket. And some of the benefits of 800 Series Spinglass Ultra are its cleanability and increased moisture and wrinkle resistance. The facing has a perm rating of 0.02, and it matches our Microlock HP Ultra pipe insulation, which also features a poly-top jacket. 800 Series Spinglass, whether it's with the new Ultra facing or our standard ASJ or FSK facings, all provide great thermal and acoustical performance. Next up, another newer product is our black PSK duct wrap, which we also offer with a matching black tape. Black PSK duct wrap is intended for exposed applications that require a matching black aesthetic. We never recommend that you paint our insulation, and we'll repeat that several times in this presentation. Painting voids our manufacturer's warranty as well as the 2550 flame smoke rating. So our black PSK duct wrap eliminates that need to paint insulation when you're looking to match a black background. And then it's also worth noting that our duct wrap also comes in a white PSK or an FSK facing. The next section I'll review will cover all of our R12 offerings. So to start, I want to explain why R12 is important. And that's because of the 2015 version of the IECC, which is currently being adopted at state levels. This code requires ductwork in exterior and unconditioned spaces in climate zones 5 through 8 to be insulated with R12 insulation. And historically, contractors have had to install multiple layers of insulation to attain R12 performance. And that's until now. So we actually have a whole portfolio of products that can provide R12 performance. There's 800 Series Spinglass, which would provide an R12 at a 3-pound density and 3-inch thickness. There's also our Microlite duct wrap, which we offer in a 4.4-inch thickness to meet R12. And we also have Expect, which is a Polyiso board for external duct applications, and that's going to give you an R12 at only a 2-inch thickness. We also have solutions for duct liners, that meet R12 within our Line Acoustic RC, Line Acoustic R300, and Spiral SG product offerings. So the next time you find yourself needing to meet an R12 requirement, keep in mind that JM has several different solutions for a variety of applications. All right, next I'm going to start introducing our core product offerings in our mechanical insulation portfolio, starting with fiberglass pipe insulation. So JM has 3 primary fiberglass pipe offerings. 2 of these offerings come with a factory-installed vapor retarder jacket. Microlock HP is offered with an ASJ or an all-service jacket, and that jacket is composed of an outer layer of bleached craft, a reinforcing middle layer of fiberglass scrim, and an inner layer of aluminum foil. Microlock HP Ultra is offered with a polypropylene coated ASJ jacket, so it's all the same layers that I just mentioned, but with a polypropylene coating on the exterior that supports better moisture resistance and cleanability. And then finally, Microlock HP Plain, pretty intuitive here. There's no jacket on this product. It's intended to be installed with another type of jacket, such as a metal jacketing. The benefits of using JM's fiberglass pipe insulation range from temperature control on hot and cold systems, acoustical control on pipes that may have a tendency to rattle, condensation control on chilled water systems that would sweat if not properly insulated, and as we've already discussed, insulation reduces the energy demand on systems, therefore contributing to energy efficiency. And I also want to point out that we offer our fiberglass pipe insulation in a variety of thicknesses that range from 1/2 inch to 5 inch. So this is an excellent slide for comparing the differences across JM's fiberglass pipe offerings. Again, there's Microlock HP, HP Ultra, and HP Plain, and the primary difference between these 3 offerings is the jacket or the lack thereof. All 3 offerings are manufactured on an inline process in our plant in Defiance, Ohio. And it's also worth mentioning that JM is unique in that we also manufacture our own ASJ jackets, so we have total control over the entire production process. And with proper installation procedures, all 3 offerings can be used in chilled water applications. Of course, with the Plain offering, you would need to install a vapor retarder jacket with it. And at the same thickness, all 3 products offer the same thermal performance. And then due to that factory installed jacket on Microlock HP and HP Ultra, these 2 offerings meet Green Guard Gold certification. And you can see that we point out the recycled content of our fiberglass insulation. That number is third-party certified, and you can find the recycled content of all our various fiberglass products on their respective data sheets on our website. All of our fiberglass pipe insulation products are rated for use up to 850 degrees, and typically Microlock HP and HP Ultra are used in commercial applications. Again, HP Ultra is differentiated by that increased moisture resistance. And then Microlock HP Plain is most commonly used in light industrial applications where a jacket other than ASJ would be required. It's also worth noting that HP Plain is U.S. Coast Guard certified and can be used in marine applications. We'll talk a little bit more about other installations for marine applications later on. All right, so now that we're versed in the differences of our Microlock offerings, let's spend a little bit of time discussing why JM's fiberglass pipe insulation supports faster, easier, and more precise installation. One benefit and unique feature to JM fiberglass pipe insulation is that the scrim lines follow the circumference of the pipe, and this allows for more exact cuts. And those scrim lines also match the scrim pattern on butt strips, which is the tape used to join pieces of pipe insulation sections together. And that helps provide a more seamless and aesthetically pleasing match at the joints. And of course, for every carton of pipe insulation, we provide butt strips with it. Microlock HP and HP Ultra also come with a self-sealing lap or SSL adhesive that's already installed on the jacket to make the sections easy to seal. And because of our manual wound process, Microlock HP pipe insulation is easier to fillet, so contractors can be confident that they can fabricate JM pipe insulation quickly and easily. Each piece of our pipe insulation also features the size clearly printed on the end of the jacket. You can see that a little bit in the upper right-hand picture here. It also includes the corresponding Zeston PVC fitting size, so you never have to guess what size PVC fitting you need or what size pipe section you have once it's been separated from the box on the job site. So thanks to all these benefits, we really think that JM's fiberglass insulation is a superior option for installers. For this slide, we just want to quickly touch on the use of our fiberglass pipe insulation over combustible pipes and plenums. So Microlock HP and Microlock HP Ultra meet the code requirements for use over combustible pipes and plenums. So these products can be a lower cost as well as an easier to install option versus plenum wrap. But we do want to note that our fiberglass pipe insulation is not a fire-rated material. Now we'll go over some frequently asked questions related to our fiberglass insulation. First, what's the maximum size and thickness available? So our wall thicknesses range from 1/2 inch all the way to 5 inch, and they're offered in 1/2 inch increments. And the pipe diameter sizes range from 1/2 inch to 24 inch in iron pipe sizes. We also offer sizing for copper tubing ranging from 5/8 inch to 6 1/8. And we'll review another one of our offerings called Microflex, which can be used on even larger size pipes in a few slides. Next question, can I paint Microlock HP? So again, we do not recommend that you paint our insulation. Again, that's going to void the 2550 flame smoke rating as well as our manufacturer's warranty. And we test our products to know that they meet 2550 requirements. So when anything is added like paint, which could function as a fuel source, we can't guarantee that our product with the paint is going to continue to meet that rating. So you could install our color PVC over pipe insulation, which would be a great alternative to achieve a certain color match, and that would allow you to maintain that 2550 rating as well as our manufacturer's warranty. Finally, can I use Microlock HP on below ambient systems? Yes, as long as the operating temperature is above 0 degrees and proper installation practices are followed to ensure a totally sealed system, our fiberglass pipe insulation can be used in below ambient systems like chilled water. For applications below 0 degrees, there are other insulation materials besides fiberglass that would be better suited. And now I'll hand it over to Natalia to tell us more about JM's Trymer offerings.
Excellent. Thank you, Meredith. So Trymer is a new product to JM portfolio. As mentioned earlier, we acquired it through ITW acquisition last year. So we're very excited to share these two products with you today as part of the mechanical portfolio. So Trymer PIR is polyisocyanurate pipe insulation. And we will be focusing today only on the fraction of the offering, and that's Trymer 2550 and Trymer 2000 XP. If you're interested in knowing more about Trymer, we will have an industrial webinar in January. I would encourage you to attend that. So both of these products and the other Trymer products are made at the JM plant, and they are made in the bump stock form, and then they go to the qualified fabricators, and we have a network of over 50 qualified fabricators across North America, where not only they can make the pipe shapes, as you can see here, but also quite intricate fittings. So what are the benefits of PIR insulation, and why should you consider it? As an insulation type, of course, as a thermal insulation, I should say, it will provide you with a thermal control, temperature controls, energy efficiency, Also, it can be used on the chilled water systems and prevent condensation. Differentiating factors for Trymer PIR is the fact that it's a closed cell insulation, and it has a higher compressive strength than some of the other insulation types. Now let's look closer at some of the properties for the two Trymer products we're focusing today. There's quite a bit similar between the two. From temperature range, both can be used on the systems from negative 297 degrees and 300 degrees Fahrenheit. They actually can be used at the lower temperatures. The only thing we would recommend discussing the technical concerns around liquefying oxygen below 297 degrees. K value is 0.19 for both products. They come in density of 2 pounds. And of course, both can be used on the chilled water systems. So far, everything is the same between the two products. So what's different? Well, now we're coming up to it, and it's in the flame spread smoke developed values, as you can see here. So for Trymer 2550, the values are less than 25 and less than 50, and hence the name. For Trymer 2000 XP, the flame spread is less than 25, but the smoke developed is less than 250. As a result, the application for the two products is a bit different. Applications where it is required by code to have the rating of less than 25 and 50, it is recommended to use the Trymer 2550. For all other applications, Trymer 2000 XP is a great choice. For installing Trymer insulation, I would like to point out here a couple of things. The first one is that when fabricators are machining the pieces, there's also an opportunity to get the factory pre-installed vapor retarder, and that's what's shown on the figures here. And the vapor retarder would actually have the SSL tape, so very similar to the way our Microlock insulation comes in, Microlock HP insulation. If you're interested for specific installation guides, we actually have 4 on our website. We have for the hot systems, for refrigeration system, LNG, as well as the chilled water. And this webinar, we cannot go into those details, but I would encourage you to look into that. And Trymer frequently asked questions. The first one, does Trymer 2550 meet ASTM E84 2550 at all available thicknesses? No, it meets this requirement up to 1.5 inches thickness. So if you're looking for something thicker, the value will be higher. However, for most of the commercial and mechanical applications, 1.5 thickness is sufficient to achieve the thermal performance that is required for most of the situations. Next question. Aside from the flame smoke rating, are there any other notable differences between Trymer 2550 and 2000 XP? As we have just reviewed, there's really no other difference except for the flame and smoke rating. And finally, third question, does Trymer 2550 PIR insulation used in chilled water application require a vapor retarder? Yes, it will require a vapor retarder, and as mentioned, it can be either be installed at the fabricators or it can be installed on site. And I would like to note also that we do have a matching tape that you can seal the joints, and the tape has the same perm rating as the vapor retarder itself, which is great. And now let's switch gears to the fiberboard insulation. We have 3 families of the insulation, and we also have the marine offering, and Meredith will cover that in a little bit. So here we have 800 series spin glass, precipitator spin glass, and 1000 series spin glass. The benefits of the fiberglass board insulation are the same as for the Microlock HP, as Meredith covered earlier. And this is not surprising because it is a fiberglass insulation, and it's great because oftentimes the board insulation will be used on the same systems where the pipe insulation will be used. So you're providing the same type of benefit for the entire system. Looking at the specifics of these three family products. So here we can see that looking at the service temperature, 800 series spin glass has the lower service temperature rating of maximum use temperature of 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And precipitator spin glass and 1000 series spin glass have 850 degrees Fahrenheit maximum use rating. From density perspective, precipitator spin glass and 1000 series spin glass are offered only in one density of 2.4 or 3 pounds per cubic foot, respectively, while 800 series, we can provide you with a density between 1.5 pounds up to 6 pounds. K values vary between all of the products, but are between 0.22 and 0.24. All have recycled content of 26%. From the facing perspective, all of the products can come in unfaced or as plain. However, if you're looking for the faced product, then 800 series spin glass would be a great option to consider. And we have three facing options. The first one is the poly-coated. That's the ultra coating that Meredith talked about earlier. We have FSK coating as well as ASJ, all service jacketing. Application varies for these three products. 800 series is generally used for equipment and external ducts. This is one of the products that would be great for the ducts when you need to achieve the R12, as mentioned earlier in the presentation. Precipitator spin glass is used for precipitators and backhouses. And 1000 series spin glass mostly for industrial applications and industrial equipment. So how to install this insulation? Installation will vary by application. In general, it will be pinned in place. And if you're dealing with a faced product, we would recommend finishing and covering the pins and the edges with a matching tape, both for great aesthetics and also provide you with continuous perm rating for the whole system. So what kind of questions do we usually get for fiberglass board? The first one is, of course, about painting insulation. And as described before, we do not recommend painting. And there's for two reasons. The first one is because the paint could affect the ASTM E84 rating, so that's the flame spread and smoke developed values. And the second one is that it will void the warranty on our product. Next question, why use 6-pound board instead of a 3-pound board? The primary reason would be for the acoustical benefit. The 6-pound board would provide you with better acoustical performance than a lighter product. And finally, the third question, can board insulation be used as acoustical panels? And the answer is absolutely. Fiberglass insulation is a great product for acoustical applications. Now let's continue with the board products, but we'll switch and talk about the polyiso foam board. We have a product in the mechanical portfolio under the brand name Expect Isofoam APF board, as you can see here. The product comes in various thicknesses and with facing on both sides. The facing has no print, and it has this, foil facing, and it's bilaminate facing on both ends. And now let's talk about why selecting the polyiso board insulation. It is a thermal insulation, so it will provide you with the typical thermal performance as the temperature control and energy efficiency. Also, since it's a polyiso foam, It's a closed cell material. It will help with it. It will inhibit water intrusion. It is lighter density than some of the other insulation types, which can be an advantage, and it has a higher compressive strength. Let's look at some of the properties. As I mentioned, we operate in a variety of thicknesses between 1/2 inch and 4 inches. As a result, the R value varies depending on the thickness. Service temperature for this product is between -100 degrees Fahrenheit and 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Surface burning characteristics are less than 25 and less than 450. As mentioned, it has a pretty good compressive strength of greater than 16 psi. Applications vary quite a bit between roof ducts as well as some of the OEM equipment type of application. So here's an example of the roof duct application, and Expect is a great product here because of the closed cell nature, great thermal performance, as well as it is a lighter product than some of the other ones that you could use here. And so it simplifies carrying the product up to the roof. Other applications, more of OEM, would be appliances, rail cars, HVAC equipment, and things of that nature. And so what kind of questions do we usually get about Expect? The first one is around, can it be brought inside of the building envelope? And the answer is that it can, as long as the flame spreads smoke developed values of less than 25 and 450 are okay. We would recommend discussing with authorities having jurisdiction this particular question. Second question, does Expect require a weather barrier jacket over it when installed on roof ductwork? And the answer is yes, it would require a jacket. It can be either a standard metal jacket or aluminum guard or a venture-clad type of material. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Meredith.
Thanks, Natalia. So I'm going to talk about our fiberglass blanket and wrap offerings, and those include our microlight duct wrap, which is used for wrapping around HVAC ducts. There's also Microflex pipe and tank wrap. This is a denser product used for large diameter pipe or tanks, as the name would imply. And then finally, HTB26 spin glass, which is a blanket product rated for higher temperature applications. So you can see from this slide that these products can be used in a variety of applications. They can be used on tanks, vessels, as removable pads and covers. They can also be used in a variety of industrial applications. And just like our other insulation products, fiberglass blankets and wrap help with temperature control and energy efficiency. And then these products also help provide condensation control, and they're also available in a variety of thicknesses. It's also worth noting that our microlight duct wrap and HTB26 spin glass are formaldehyde-free. All right, onto our handy comparison chart. So duct wrap, Microflex, and HTB26 are all rated for different service temperatures. Duct wrap can be used on applications up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, Microflex up to 850 degrees Fahrenheit, and you'll notice that that matches the same service temperature of our other fiberglass pipe insulation products. And then HTB26 can be used all the way up to 1,000 degrees. And duct wrap comes in different densities, and then all of these products come in different thicknesses, so there's a range of thermal performance that you can achieve with these products. And I already mentioned the facing offerings for our duct wrap when we talked about our black PSK offering. So again, it's available in that black PSK, a white PSK, or an FSK, and you can see all of those pictured here. Microflex can come in either an ASJ or an FSK facing. You can see the ASJ facing in the picture. And then finally, HTB26 is unfaced. And again, the applications for these products include ductwork, large diameter pipes, tanks, vessels, and high temperature blankets and pads. Moving right along to the FAQ. First question, What is the difference between installed R value and out of package R value? And this question is specific to our duct wrap products. So duct wrap is typically intended to be applied to a rectangular or a square-shaped duct. And duct wrap is going to be pulled snugly around that duct during installation so that you avoid sagging and you give the wrap a relatively tight fit around the duct. So during the install, the wrap is going to experience some compression at the corners of the duct. And when defining installed R value, this compression is taken into account. So the installed R value assumes a 25% compression that can occur at the corners of those ducts. And prior to compression, the quote-unquote out-of-package R value will be greater than the installed or the compressed R value. And the reason why we list both is so that if you're using the product for wrapping around something other than a rectangular or a square duct where you're not going to have that corner compression. Next question. What size pipes are good candidates for microflex? So keep in mind we offer pipe insulation sections for pipes up to 24 inches in diameter, but really any pipe size over 20 inches in diameter is a good candidate for microflex. And this is especially true when handling and storage of materials is limited or the pipe requiring the insulation is in a tight area. So in these circumstances, using rolls of microflex could be advantageous when compared to using full-length sections of pipe insulation. Now we'll switch gears to marine insulation. There are two additional fiberglass products that are specific to marine applications: incombustible whole board and incombustible microlite. And we've got a repeat product here, Microlock HP Plain, which can also be used in marine applications. Our marine insulations are intended for use on commercial and military vessels, as well as drilling rig platforms. They offer the same benefits we've covered: temperature control and acoustical control, and they are also USCG certified for incombustibility requirements. Here's a look at the differences between these products. The primary physical difference between incombustible whole board and incombustible microlite is that one is a board product, whole board, and one is a blanket product, the incombustible microlite. So that means different densities and thermal performance. I won't go into too much detail on Microlock HP Plain since we already reviewed it in the fiberglass pipe insulation section. And again, all three products here are Coast Guard or USCG certified for incombustibility requirements. And again, all of these products can be used on drilling rig platforms as well as merchant and military ships. We'll move on to the FAQs for this section. First question, do marine installations require Coast Guard certification? Yes, they do, and you can find the designations on our data sheets. Second question, are the binders different than standard fiberglass products? So yes, for our board product, the binder used for incombustible whole board is different than our standard fiberglass boards, and that's in order to achieve that incombustibility rating. And now I'll pass it back to Natalia to review PVC jacketing.
Excellent. Thank you, Meredith. So we're going to be switching gears from insulation to jacketing, and the first product we're looking at is PVC. Our PVC jacketing comes under the brand name of Zeston, and we offer Zeston 2000, Zeston 300, cut and curl jacketing, as well as the Zeston high and low temperature insulation inserts. Johns Manville is the only PVC jacketing manufacturer who also manufactures insulation. So we're the only ones that offer inserts as well as the jacketing. So why do we need to be considering jacketing? Well, because PVC jacketing can provide us with additional mechanical protection for the system. So where you would expect abuse or high traffic areas, then that could be a great choice to protect an underlying insulation. As mentioned, we do not recommend painting any of our insulation. However, PVC jacketing comes in 14 colors, so hopefully you can find the color that would be appropriate for your facility to provide you with color identification as well as the aesthetic. And finally, white PVC jacketing does have the UV stabilizer in it, so it does provide some UV resistance. Now let's look a little bit closer at our Zeston 2300 cut and curl jacketing. As I mentioned, all products are offered in 14 colors, so that's 13 colors plus white. Thicknesses are 20 mil for 2000, 30 mil for 300, and cut and curl jacketing comes in both. The usage system for this installation is from 0 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. You can obviously use the jacketing on the hottest systems as long as you have sufficient insulation to be below 150. Section sizes for cut and curl jacketing are in 3 and 4 foot length. Application-wise, 2000 is great for commercial applications. For more of the higher abuse and the wash-down USDA environment, we would recommend Zeston 300 and 30 mil cut and curl jacketing. Let's look at our insulation inserts. These inserts are rated for the temperature up to 850 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the same maximum use temperature as for Microlock HP, which is great so that you can use for straight sections, you can have Microlock HP, and for any fittings and elbows, you can have the Zeston high-low inserts. It has a great K value. Also, the binder used for this insulation is formaldehyde-free, so it does have Green Guard Gold certification. And for applications, it is used generally for the commercial applications. From the installation perspective, we not only offer the fittings and cut and curl jacketing, but we also have a full line of the accessories. That includes tacks, tape, adhesive, and thinner. So the questions that we often get around Zeston include, how do I determine the right size for my application? If you happen to be using Microlock HP, it is actually quite easy because on one of the ends of the jacketed insulation, it's going to be printed. If you happen to have a box of Microlock HP, we have a full sizing chart printed on it. Alternatively, we have it available on our website or through our JM Smart Binder app. Next question, can Zeston PVC product be used outdoors? For the outdoor application, we would recommend white Zeston 30 mil thick product. If you're looking for applications, if it's exposed to, let's say, to the sunlight, such as a roof application, alternative jacketing, such as metal jacketing, may be more suitable. We would recommend discussing with the technical team. In general, white 30 mil Zeston would be a good choice. Next question, how many color offerings do you provide? We have 13 colors plus white, so it's 14 in total. And now we're going to be switching gears to the metal jacketing. Metal jacketing is a new offering to Johns Manville, and we offer both aluminum and stainless steel metal jacketing with various surface finish thicknesses, as well as accessories. And I will give only high overview here. If you're interested in more information, the webinar, industrial webinar in January, would be a great choice to attend. So what are the advantages of metal jacketing? Metal will provide even higher abuse resistance than even PVC. It will help protect the system from corrosion. And that will be achieved through the weather protection. If the jacketing is installed properly, then that will lead to sealing the system and not allowing the elements to get into it. So looking at the high level for our aluminum and stainless steel offering, we offer both straight and elbow pieces for aluminum and stainless steel. Many options for many of the products, we have the polyfilm moisture barrier included as well. That's for aluminum, both straight and elbow, as well as straight pieces of stainless steel. Both products are offered in a variety of thicknesses. From application perspective, aluminum is great for commercial as well as some of the industrial applications. Stainless is generally used in industrial application, as well as some of the niche situations. And as I've mentioned, we have a full line of accessories for both aluminum and stainless steel products. And with this, I'm going to turn it over to Kim.
All right. Thank you so much, Natalia. I appreciate it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the additional resources that we have available for you. And these are resources for you that you can use to get more information. So the first one I want to talk about is the source. And this is basically our mechanical resource installation library. And in your chat feature, you should have just received a link to the mechanical installation resource library. So we also have one of these for our industrial installation, our building installation, and our HVAC installation. So if you're looking for very specific information for any one of those three categories, you can get to those source pages from the link that you just had in your inbox. So on the source, you'll find webinars, specification information, access to our most recent blogs, description of each of our products, tools and ebooks that are available for you to download and use for free, and then online training opportunities. So that's just a great resource for anybody who's looking for more opportunities to learn and more educational information. The next thing I want to talk about is our Engineer Advisory Council. So this is a council we gather with engineers. Obviously in 2020 this got delayed, but we get together with engineers to talk about some of the pain points that they're facing in the industry and issues that they're having and how we as a manufacturer can help better support them. So if this is something you're interested in participating in the future, please let us know in the survey. Finally, everybody who attended today will get a certificate of completion, and this completion certificate is about, it should arrive in your inbox next Monday, and you can use it to submit it for professional development hours. And also, in addition to the certificate of completion, we will send you a link of the webinar when it's live online for you to watch. So we don't send out a recording of, or we don't send out a PDF of the webinar or the presentation itself, but we do post a recording of it online. And that allows you to watch it within its full context and make sure that you can share it with your colleagues, that sort of thing. So with that, we are going to dive into some of the questions we've had. Again, as I said, if you would like to submit any questions, you can do that by clicking on the Q&A in the right side, click on the ellipsis at the bottom right side of your screen. That'll open up a dialog box that says Q&A, and you can use that to submit questions. Please make sure your questions are slated to go to all panelists so that they arrive to me so that I can ask you guys. So with that, I would also like to introduce Heather Sharif and John Elvram. They are part of our technical team and are online here today to join us to answer some of the questions that have come through. So with that, if everybody's ready, we'll go ahead and get started. And the first question is for you, Meredith, and that is, in the R12 portfolio for Microlite, is the R12 out of package or installed? Do you advocate full thickness completely around a duct to maintain R value?
Yeah, so the R12 is the installed value. So the out of package R value for our 4.4 inch thick duct wrap is R15. And again, we're taking into account that 25% compression so that your installed R value is going to be an R12.
All right, thank you. Heather, the next question is for you, and that is, do you have any videos that show how metal jacketing is installed? I'm particularly interested in jacketing for USDA and FDA applications.
So no, we don't have any videos that show that, but on our website we do have instruction guidelines for installation guidelines for metal jacketing. It's got figures and pictures in there that should help with the proper installation.
All right, excellent. The next question we have, Natalia, I'm going to send this to you, and that is, what is the best practice for installing aluminum jacketing to avoid water intrusion? We prefer to see it installed without screws or rivets penetrating the jacket. Is lapping the layers and banding sufficient, or should tape or mastic or silicone be used?
Great, thank you, Kim. Great question. So from the high level, absolutely jacketing can be installed without the rivets or screws. Banding can be used. For installing and preventing the water intrusion, the overlap should be installed such that it's pointing downwards. Also, if it's an outside situation, you might want to consider the wind direction so that when you have a driving rain situation, it's not driving the water in there. Yes, there are sealants that can be used, and I recommend it to be used when installing jacketing. And as Heather just mentioned, we do have an installation guide on our website, and that shows specifically both how to install and how to point the overlap, as well as how to properly put the sealant and the type of sealant that we would recommend using. Alternatively, if you have access to industry publications such as Mica Manual, that one will also provide you with a guidance on that. So, but going back to the original question, absolutely, the metal jacketing can be installed to prevent the water intrusion, and their practices in place.
All right, thank you, Natalia. John, the next question is for you, and that is, does the K value vary on service temperature?
Yes, it does. The thermal conductivity will increase with increasing temperatures, and this is shown on a number of our product data sheets for the mechanical insulation products.
All right, thank you, John. Meredith, the next question is for you, and that is, what are the cost comparisons between using Zest-On jacketing versus metal jacketing in any given condition?
So I think the best way to look at whether you're using a Zest-On PVC or a metal jacketing is what are the application requirements. So what's more important is, what's going to be the better suited material for you. So if you're looking at something that's going to be in direct sunlight outside for long periods of time, I definitely recommend that a metal jacketing would have more durability. PVC can be a great option for anything that you're using inside that has washdown requirements. If you need to differentiate different lines of pipe with color, there's, again, as Natalia had mentioned, 13 different colors of Zest-On PVC. So, rather than just looking at the cost component, I think it's much more important to consider what your application requirements are.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Meredith. The next question is, again for you, Meredith, and that is, does JM offer preformed and or prefabricated fiberglass fittings as opposed to field fabricating miters to match existing pipe insulation?
So what you could use if you're looking specifically for a fiberglass option for elbows is our Zest-On PVC covers, which come with fiberglass inserts. We don't actually make fabricated fiberglass elbows. You could also consider that we sell Trymer PIR to our fabricators that could then make fabricated PIR elbows, so that would be another option.
All right, excellent. So the next question is going to be, I'm going to give it to Meredith first, and then Heather, I'd like you to chime in as well. And that is, when do I use Trymer insulation rather than fiberglass insulation on chilled water systems in a non-2550 rated area?
So what I think would be important to consider are what's the relative humidity that it's going to be installed in. So, fiberglass can certainly be used on chilled water applications, but if the application is in a really, really high humidity environment, Trymer PIR might be a better option because, again, it's a closed cell insulation, and I'll let Heather tag on to that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think another design characteristic is going to be, once again, where are you looking to not only prevent condensation, but is there an acoustical property that you need? If you need some acoustical assistance, then obviously fiberglass would be better than PIR would be. I think another factor would be that Trymer's got a higher compressive strength. So if you're going to be in an area that is going to possibly see some mechanical abuse or people walking on insulation, which they shouldn't do anyway, then you might consider using a Trymer versus a fiberglass. So I think it's going to be solely based on your design requirements.
All right, thank you, ladies. Meredith, the next question is also for you, and that is HP Ultra, Microlock HP Ultra provided with a self-sealing lap?
Yes, it is. So both Microlock HP and Microlock HP Ultra come with that self-sealing lap.
And then a follow-up question to that one is it available in other colors?
So Microlock HP and HP Ultra, they both have, it's just one jacketing. So they're both going to look white. HP is going to look like more of a matte white, and then HP Ultra has a little bit of a sheen to it. If you're looking for a certain color for pipe insulation, I would recommend that you cover it with our PVC. Again, we've got 13 different color options there.
All right, excellent. Natalia, the next question is for you, and that is, when can the Polyiso board be used instead of fiberglass if 2550 is not required?
When can it be used? I'm trying to think. I mean, I think it's more depends on the design requirements. They're slightly different thermal performances. We mentioned that typically we see the Polyiso being used on the rooftop ducts applications as well as the appliances, but I'm not sure. I think either one could be if 2050 is not a concern. Meredith, John, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on what other aspects you're looking for. You had mentioned, do you need compressive strength? Is that something that would be important for the application? In which case, the Polyiso would be a good option. I'm trying to think of anything else. I guess another thing would be that Polyiso, you're going to be able to achieve a higher R value at less thickness. So if spacing constraints are a problem, you might take that into account between comparing fiberglass and Polyiso board.
I would agree with that. This is John. Again, it would depend on the application, but Polyiso has higher compressive strength, has lower thermal conductivity. So if space constraint is a concern, then Polyiso might work better. But I think Meredith and Natalia covered the points.
Excellent. Thank you, three. Meredith, the next question is for you, and that is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the Ultra Poly Jacket versus the FSK Jacket for the ductboard product? When would you use one over the other?
Yeah, so it seems to be more common that if you're going to use our spin glass boards on the exterior of a duct, if you're looking at either the difference between Ultra or ASJ versus FSK, it's usually because of aesthetics. We typically see that the ASJ or the Ultra are installed in applications that are exposed, so you're going to see the ducts and they might look a little nicer if they've got that white finish to it as opposed to that metal sheen to it. It's really just kind of a preference from an aesthetic standpoint. And then, the Ultra versus our regular ASJ facing, you might consider whether, you want that increased cleanability of the Ultra versus the ASJ, or maybe you're trying to match pipe insulation, and if that has a polypropylene coating on it as well, then the Ultra would be a great fit.
All right. Thank you, Meredith. I do realize we are coming right up to the edge of the hour. So for anybody who's interested in staying on, we do have a number of questions still left to get through. So we will answer questions up to 15 minutes past the hour or once all the questions are complete. So if you want to sit tight with us, great. If you'd like to get the questions afterward, we will send you the recording once this is complete. So with that, we will go ahead and get to the next question. John, this question is for you, and that is, would retainer pins penetrate the FSK or poly jacket when you are installing the fiberglass board product? And if so, how is the vapor barrier maintained?
Usually you would use the appropriate tape, either the ASJ tape or FSK, or in certain instances you could use a vapor retarder mastic to seal those penetrations.
All right. Thank you, John. Meredith, the next question is for you, and that is, does JM make an 817 board in 3-inch 6-pound with FSK?
So for our machine capability, we can make anything up to a 12-pound chain weight. So something that is a 6-pound 3-inch is going to exceed that, and that's just straight multiplying the 3-inch by the 6-pound weight to get 18. So that's going to exceed our capability. If you're looking to achieve a certain R value, and you don't have to worry about a 2550 rating, Expect can achieve higher R values. So that could be something that you could look at instead.
Thanks, Meredith. The next question is for John or Heather. The question is Polyiso a free rise or retained rise product? What are the major differences in product characteristics between them, and where would one be used over the other?
So if this is talking about the PAR, the Trymer products, then I'm not sure I know the difference between the free rise and the retrained rise. The Trymer PIR product starts as a liquid, and then as it moves down the conveyor, chemical reactions happen and it rises. I don't know if that helps any. I might have to do a little bit more research for that question.
All right, we can take a note on that and respond to the person who asked the question after the webinar. The next question, Heather, is also for you, and that is, actually, John, you might also need to weigh in on this one. Is the chloride content of the Trymer product the same as the Expect foil-faced Polyiso board product?
I have not done that comparison. I can tell you that according to ASTM C871, the leachable chloride for the Trymer 2000 XP is 58 parts per million when it's tested in accordance to that ASTM standard. John, can you tell us what the other one is?
Not offhand. They're manufactured at different plants and I'm living under different conditions. However, I'm sure that the Expect meets the industry standards based on if it's going to be in contact with austenitic stainless steel. I don't know that we do that testing very often, though.
All right, we'll take note of follow-up on that one as well. The next question we have, Natalia, I'll go ahead and run this by you, and that is, what is the additional specification information that's required for Zeston jacketing installed in a food processing washdown application at 180 degrees Fahrenheit?
Additional specifications. Well, first of all, I would be curious to know a little bit more about application, because what catches my ear right now is 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So if this is the service temperature of the piping, let's say, or a tank, then obviously some insulation will need to go over the piping or the tank, because from the Zeston perspective, it should be used at temperatures between 0 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So we would need to specify some sort of insulation if that's the case. Other specifications, I mean, we have a lot of information on our data sheet, so I would recommend reviewing that. So I think that's where kind of I would leave it at. But if you need more technical support, we do have a technical line where we can help with more of discussing specifics of your particular situation and help you specify the material appropriate for your situation.
All right. Thank you, Natalia. The next question is for you, Heather, and that is, do the metals in your jacket offer corrosion protection by the virtue of the fact that they are aluminum and stainless steel?
So I would say more importantly, what is going to offer the protection against the corrosion is going to be the polyfilm moisture barrier that is heat laminated to the inside of our metal jacketing. Both of our aluminum and our metal jacketings both comply with ASTM 1729 for aluminum and 1767 for the jacketing for insulation, respectively. But I think more so for the corrosion, it's going to be the polyfilm moisture barrier.
Excellent. Thank you. John, this next question is for you, and that is vapor barrier mastic considered a paint that would void the warranty on pipe or board insulation?
Typically, the mastic isn't applied over the entire surface of the insulation unless it's outdoors, and if it's outdoors, it really doesn't matter. Fire safety isn't that big a concern outdoors. Indoors, most of the mastics need a 2550. So in general, I would say there's not an issue there. With paints, we don't have any control over that.
All right. Thank you, John. The next question, I'm going to go ahead and hand this one to you, Meredith, and that is, what would you use for acoustical noise control in a dust control booth?
In a dust control booth. So I would say that if you're looking for something that's going to provide acoustical performance, then a fiberglass board would be a great option.
All right. Thank you. The next question, I'm not really sure who would be best to answer this, so if anybody has the answer, go ahead and chime in for me. What would you use for a heat-traced piping? What insulation would you use for heat-traced piping?
You could use our Microlock HP fiberglass pipe insulation for heat trace piping.
All right, excellent. The next question, Meredith, is also for you. You're in the hot spot apparently, and that is, does JM offer color-matched caulk for the colored PVC jacket?
So we don't offer color match caulk, but what you can use is our clear solvent weld adhesive. So that's going to basically blend in with the PVC, and that would be a great option for sealing up our PVC.
All right. Meredith, I'll start with you on this one, and then John, maybe you could chime in, and that is, how soon will R12 insulation be a standard in our industry? Is there any information in regard to the future requirements for standard HVAC systems? We currently install R8 in Southern California.
Yeah, so that's a great question. It really depends on how quickly codes change, and those vary by location. So I had mentioned in the R12 section that the 2015 version of the IECC required R12 for specific applications in climate zones 5 through 8, and then it's up to states to be adopting that. So it kind of depends on how soon everybody gets on board with that, and if there's more push to, you know, increase the requirements and that type of thing. John, do you want to add anything onto that?
You gave a very good answer. It just depends on the states adopting the codes and their push for energy conservation. So some states are leading the charge. West Coast, California, along the East Coast, there's a number of states. And then some states are lagging behind. They're not up to speed on the current code, so it just depends.
All right, thank you both. Meredith, the next question is also for you, and that is, do Microlock HP and Microlock HP Ultra cost the same?
So if you have a question about pricing, I would recommend that you get in touch with one of our sales team members to discuss pricing. That's not something that we're going to touch on in this call.
All right. Heather, the next question is for you, and that is, does Trymer have any red list chemicals? And if so, are any of them above the threshold limits?
I think that's probably a question that I should follow directly with that inquirer about. Our product stewardship team handles most of that type of information, so I think that's probably a question we could take offline.
All right, great. So we have one more question left, and that is, I guess, we'll start with you, Heather, and maybe the rest of the team can chime in. And that is there a USDA approval for the metal jacketing similar to the USDA totally sealed system associated with the Zeston product?
I am not sure of a USDA approval for the metal jacketing. I would have to, once again, do a little bit more research unless somebody else knows that we do have one.
All right. Well,
John.
Go ahead, John.
As far as I know, the requirement is that the surface needs to be cleanable or be able to be washed down. So it depends on the integrity of the surfaces. As long as you can wipe it down, clean it, use cleaning solutions or like 150-degree steam, then if the surface can take it, then it should be allowed.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending today. That wraps up all of our questions. So if you have any additional questions that you didn't ask or didn't get to ask today, please feel free to submit them to us in the survey. Otherwise, for the questions we took a note to follow up on, we'll follow up with you directly. And otherwise, have a great, safe, and merry holiday season.